We're about to review the stories captured in the newspapers, and I'm sure that the Supreme Court issues in the judiciary will be featuring. But let me introduce our guest and let's get straight into it. We have the legislator for Sisala East, Mohammed Bataglia, and of course, Nanaya Sapong from the Movement for Change. Along the lines, when our third guest joins us, I will introduce him. But gentlemen, welcome to the program. It's good to see you both. And
see you.
Anybody else wish they were sleeping in bed right now? Or it's just me? Anyway, say again.
Do men sleep? We don't.
Oh, you don't sleep? Men don't sleep? Interesting. So it's just us who sleep?
Yeah, of course. In as much as you take some salaries, your budgets are still on us. And so we need to work extra hard.
Well, I can't argue with that.
Thank you.
Let me start with the legislator. You know, we gave our guests a couple of minutes to share their thoughts with us. So let me start with you, Mr. Bataglia. What has caught your attention? I mean, it's Thursday, so all week. What is on your mind?
Well, thank you so much, Titi. And a very good morning to you and my good brother, Yab. May I also extend the same greetings to my constituents, Sisala East, and of course, every Ghanaian watching us this morning. Well, a whole lot is happening, especially from yesterday. But though I'm in white, I will want to go on a bit sad note. Yesterday, we buried one of our MCEs of Laura, Honorable Alhaji Muazu Adam, a very fine gentleman who was with us in the gutters. He did everything possible to get NDC back into power. He was rewarded by a nomination from the president and subsequent confirmation by the people of Laura. Unfortunately, he fell quite ill within a short space, and we lost him here in Accra. They flown him back yesterday, and burial was done according to Muslim tradition. I want to extend my sincere condolences to the family, especially the wife. My colleague, my senior colleague, the MP for Laura, the people of Upper West, and at large, I say the whole Ghana, for somebody who was so determined to at least bring a change in our part of the world. But God knows best. And that's how I'll leave it.
Thank you. And our condolences to the family of this honorable MCE. Nanaya Sapong, let's hear your thoughts now.
I'll just add my voice to wishing the people of this district our condolences. I think that it's sad, yes, it is, but who knows? God knows best. But having said that, I would also want to add my voice to the many Ghanaians who are calling for our fellow citizens to kind of manage expectations in this current dispensation. Monitoring the news for some weeks now, I have noticed once and that some voices that were lost have suddenly been found, and almost everybody is expecting something huge. And we'll just appeal. You see, it is good to have expectations. It is good to know what you want. It is good to push for what you want. But it is also prudent that you manage your expectations as an individual. And whilst you manage it, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't demand for it. We should be able to know the timings within which we are. The Bible would always tell us that there are times and seasons. It doesn't also stop you from demanding.
What are you talking? What expectations should the Ghanaian be managing?
There has been so many of labor unrest all of a sudden, all right? And that is because so much is expected to be done. Things that were supposed to have happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people are expecting it. Union leaders are expecting it to happen within a month. They want it all of a sudden. And I think that if we're able to manage our expectations and push properly, we would all get there. Let us come together as a nation. Let us deal with the rots in the system. Let us try to block the blockade, the wastage systems that we have, and then let's push for a better Ghana as we move.
Okay. You know, they say to whom more is given, much is expected.
Of course.
So is it the case that...
Absolutely. 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 To whom much is given, much is expected.
All right.
But we still would have to be able to manage that which we expect so that we don't get disappointed. That's
fine. Awal Mohammed has joined us now. He's from the NPP's Communications Directorate. Awal, welcome to the program. Good morning. Okay, good morning. You just joined us at the right time, although late. Yes. What is on your mind? What can you share with us this morning before we get into the newspapers?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Good morning to our cherished viewers and my co-panelists. And yes, yesterday we launched the Patriotic School at the party headquarters where we had all the party bigwigs coming. The Patriotic School is very necessary at this point because we wanted to at least teach almost every member of the party the philosophies of the party, the values, the history of the party. And there will be courses that will be mandatory for for party officers and those that will be optional that people will be able to really join. And so yesterday we had a very successful lunch with a very powerful speech by President Kufuor about how we'll be able to really paint the right picture as the party, which is a democratic party, that we can elect anyone to lead the party without really looking at the person's ethnic or religious background. So it was a very powerful message yesterday, and it has come at the right time when there were a lot of things against Dr. Bawumia, not really because of his competence, but because people think that he's a Muslim or he's from the north and so on. So I think it has come at the right time, and we have launched the school, and the modalities will come for all party people to be able to take advantage of it. Okay.
I want to start from this story, public or human interest stories. This affects the average Ghanaian. PURC increased electricity tariffs by 2.45%. And they're saying this... You got excited.
You are giving brother smash to my brother.
I wonder why you...
No, I mean, you see, once you're in opposition, when these things happen...
You're excited.
See, when you started, like you went to an exam and you saw your question you prepared for.
Because they've been waiting for you. Anyway, so, well, we know the story. Yesterday, I think on the midday news, on Joy News, JN Today, I spoke to the director of research, I think, from PURC, and he was justifying this tariff adjustment, upward adjustment. He said that ordinarily, there's a lump sum adjustment they have to do. But because they don't want the Ghanaian to feel that pinch all at once, they did that 50% in the second or third quarter. Okay, this is the third quarter. And so they're going to be doing this quarterly review, upward adjustments, which is why we are seeing this now. And they're talking about debt that is, crippling the energy sector. They talk about detailed analysis of the macroeconomic and operational factors. They're talking about exchange rate fluctuations, rising fuel costs, inflation, etc. But the question I ask is the average Ghanaian ready for this? This year alone, this will make the second time we are increasing electricity tariffs from a little above 14% 2 or 3 months ago to this. I will come to you, Mr. Battaglia, last because you are in government. Let's hear from those in opposition and those who are neutral before I come to you because you have the answers. Nana Osapong, how did this news come to you yesterday?
When I have not even spoken, a former MP of the ex-royal government is sending me a WhatsApp saying that he's actually monitoring to see what I would hear what I would say. But
on the electricity tariff, okay.
Because I've had a stand, and I have said that the indicators that the various utility what was the name, the institutions had always put in their proposals and put in before PURC. Once those indicators are having some improvement or see some improvement in those indicators, it should be reflected in our what's the name, the adjustments. Okay, so one of them has to do with the exchange rate, with which we've seen some improvement. The other has to do, I mean, most of them rallies around the forex, whether it's operational, whether it is whatsoever, it rallies around.
I think it's actually the pivot around which the other indicators revolve. Yeah.
Revolve. But you see, it's a bitter pill. It is a bitter pill. If you had listened to the PURC head of research and corporate affairs yesterday, you would understand that this is a bitter pill we would just have to swallow. In as much as government is doing all it can to be able to help the livelihood, make livelihood much more easier, it is a bitter pill that we would have to swallow. How did we get here? That is what we should be discussing. And how do we move out of the place? You see, sweetie, when it comes to water and electricity, I always say that these are two major elements when any country wants to move forward in terms of industrialization and would also want to move forward in terms of security. All right. And so you cannot just take decisions anyhow when it comes to water and electricity. All right. Sweetie, this dates back to when we had signed the IMF deal. This dates back to when we had signed the IMF deal. What had been the conditions in respect to the IMF deal? Now, the decisions that are taken, if you had listened to the gentleman yesterday, tells us that even if they had pushed, all right, that the consumer should absorb all of it, then it means that it would have been higher than where we are
So
today.
you think the justification the PRC is given is okay?
No, I'm not.
So
I'm not totally
point?
in support of their justification.
Okay.
But what I am saying is that there is a bedrock on which they are moving. Okay, what is causing it? And you see, they added new indicators, the outstandings and the money that they would need to be able to raise to. That's the cost of the liquid fuel. All right, these are all indicators we should be looking at. And if you had listened to him very well yesterday, I think that the cost of fuel that they were talking about runs around 27%. All right, and that is pushing some things. We should be. It should give us an opportunity to discuss how we would move out the infrastructural investment, how to even move fast on the solar. Okay, to be able to reduce the cost in terms of fueling and even to expand our natural gas, which they are doing. So personally, it's a bitter pill. And the PURC and the power producers should be able to do something around it, and as much as it is.
All right. Awal, seeing that you were visibly excited to get a bite at this, let's hear you out now.
Thank you so much. I think I was very much surprised to see this adjustments because we were expecting a downwards adjustment. I remember about a month ago, I was on this show when I said because the factors or the variables they used to increase it to 14.7 was inflation and exchange rate. That was what they used. So when the dollar, the cedi started coming to around 11.10, I mentioned it on this platform that because now the variables are now looking good, it's better they reduce it.
But it's not an automatic. It doesn't reflect automatically. You know, it takes time for the. Okay.
So that is the reason at that time we're not insistent on them doing it at that time. We knew that there will be a window, which is the second quarter, so that they will be able to reduce it. Because if you check the exchange rate now, it's around 11. The inflation that they used at that time was 21. Today it's 18. Right? So I'm surprised that they will come up with an upward adjustment, especially looking at the government that came on the back of 24-hour economy. And in the 24-hour economy, they promised us a reduction in electricity tariffs. You remember what Asiedu Nketia said, that welders and others who wants to take advantage of the 24-hour economy will have a reduced electricity so that they will be able to really produce. So now, you're doing 17.1% just within the first 6 months of your administration. When I hear people say that it is IMF conditionality, last year around this time, there was a reduction, about 3% reduction. Cumulatively, last year, we did 6.3% cumulatively for last year. And we're still with the IMF. So I'm surprised that someone will sit here and tell me the IMF. There should be a quarterly adjustment, is true. But a quarterly adjustment should not be always reviewed upwards, looking at the variables and so on. The PURC will always explain. But I think this is untenable. This is something that I have heard a lot of people are saying that you didn't even reduce it from 14.7. You are now increasing it, and just within 2 months, it was in May that they increased. Now, just within a month, they have added 2.5%.
Okay.
So it tells you how insensitive the government is, because the electricity, almost every Ghanaian at least uses this electricity. And even if you don't use electricity, you go to the com mill and so on, you still have to pay for it and so on. So the government must take steps to allow that, as we did with the Dumsor levy, to also put this one also on hold, so that at least we look at the exchange rate and the inflation, because the inflation is still trending downwards. It's around 18% now. Right. The exchange rate, even though Abuchi is doing 13, but at least Bank of Ghana, we're seeing around 10, 11. Oh, but Abuchi has the dollar, you know. But the Bank of Ghana will only have the rate. You understand? So the government must take steps to allow them halt this one, even if it is pushed to the next quarter. That will help us.
All right. So, Mr. Battaglia, it appears the argument is your government says Ghana is experiencing some sort of economic rebound. We are recovering. We're doing well. The macro indicators, they say inflation, the figures look like we're doing well. Yeah. So how has it come to be that we are seeing upward adjustments of electricity tariffs twice in the 6 months of 2025? Help us make sense of it.
Great. Sweetie, I think that we have greeted ourselves. Let me just say a very good morning to my good brother, Awa. He's doing so well. He's trying. These are difficult times for them. Really, Sweetie, I want to start from a point he made, that he's surprised. Even if you follow through the conversations or explanations of PURC, they themselves indicated they themselves are even surprised. But what is the surprise for? This is the time we are matching pragmatism, reality, as against our rhetoric. We have to look at the issue holistically. We have found ourselves in a situation where we need to deal with the realities. Well, he indicated perfectly the indicators where we talk about exchange rate, we are looking at inflation. But first of all, if you look for the past 6 months, we have had very good indicators in relation to this, results in relation to this, because we have the dollar moving from 15.5 to now 10.3 thereabout. We have inflation moving from 23 to now 18. But that said, one would have thought that, yes, the condition we went into that will require that quarterly we have to do an adjustment of our tariffs based on the 300 million that we took. We are also bedeviled or saddled with what? Over 500, close to 500 million. That's 488 million Ghanaians in debt. And we are confronted with issues about reserve capacity. And we are confronted with issues of what? Liquid fuels. Even if they want to go on the liquid fuel alone, we'll be increasing this by close to 54%. We are told even this increment just has wholly been consumed by what? The debt that we are trying to deal with. Because to talk about 24-hour economy, you must have your industries running. And you cannot be playing the ostrich when the reality is staring at you. And I think that this is the time the government wants to take bold steps, even though painful. But this pain cannot in any way be compared to what we experience. We are experiencing an increment, a marginal increment in tariffs, vis-a-vis a reduction in many sectors of our economy. Food, now if you go to the market, people are rejoicing. Yes. People are rejoicing. You're talking about transport system.
I know people who disagree with you.
No, people who disagree, but the reality is also there.
Including yourself.
No, the reality is there. Let me tell you, for instance.
I'm not part of the...
We are here when somebody, before we were buying oil, just a gallon of oil, 8,000 Ghana cedi, it's come down. A lot of food items have gone down. I am coming from an agricultural hub, that's the South East. We are even now struggling to even sell our maize because the prices have dropped to 400 Ghana cedi per bag.
But you see, that's actually the norm up north, you know. It's always different. The prices are always different here in the central business district, here in Accra. So if you're buying things at relatively cheaper prices up north, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're also having the same experiences.
No, but
I'm restricting myself because I haven't personally been to the market in a long while, so I do not know. And I used to go and I'll come and sit on there and say one ball of tomato is too expensive. You know what I mean?
Those stories are far gone. Those stories are far gone.
But the point I'm making is, if we are indeed recovering and seeing these positive indicators that you talk about, how is it that it's not reflecting in where it's actually supposed to aid or cushion the pockets of the Ghanaian? Albeit you did increase the wages, but it looks like after all these tariff adjustments, we are back to the exact same amount of money that you...
I am making this point that we are trying to fix a very broken foundation. For the country to propel economically, we depend on industry. And industry will have to depend on a power. So if you have a system that you don't even have a reserve capacity, one day we're leaving, they left about 5 hours reserve capacity for us. We saw that.
But that was a lie.
But that's what the minister said.
I don't think
after 5 hours, Ghana
didn't... The minister himself said that.
They did
Ghana didn't shut down after 5 hours.
But you know, they ordered fuel from Nigeria.
You see,
and it takes days for it.
I followed that conversation.
It's not one day that you just order for crude. It comes from Nigeria.
It was his time. Let him land. I'm happy to listen to you.
Let's not go there. A lot has happened. People did a lot to fix this country moving. And I think that we don't have to go to sleep just because we have to use this time. Even if you look at it, he was talking about the deal they are talking about. We're looking at a situation where we can deal with this liquid fuels. Well, we have fuel prices moving from 17 down to 12. And with his ingenuity, the Minister of Finance thought that, yes, to deal with this issue that is staring at us, because if you do everything and everything is moving and you don't have a stable power, because per the research of even the preliminary research of PURC itself indicated that 59.4% of people, Ghanaian, prefer to have very stable power with a marginal increase in in tariff, rather than having lower tariffs with unstable power. And I think that once you have the sentiments of people who are buying into this, it's better for you to do the right things to keep this economy moving.
All right.
We will not take chances. We will do everything. But nobody can compare the hardships previously compared to what we are seeing today. No.
I think we can move past the comparison.
Exactly.
So let's take to today's realities.
If I may,
you
see.
Don't worry, I'll come back to you in a bit.
We should understand that an economy that is broken would have to first of all stabilize.
Exactly.
Before it grows. And in an economic stability, you do not immediately see reflections of good and prudent economic decisions happening. You do not immediately see it. So let us understand that you were making a statement about the North and the South, which has, to me, it is the patriotic nature of the people. Now, if you blame price hikes on exchange rate, and the cedi has appreciated and the dollar is down, because we do not operate an open market and government does not absolutely control that. In fact, not absolutely. Government does not control.
It's a free market.
It's a free market.
Yeah.
It is up to the person who is important, because all government does is to negotiate and to create that environment. Okay, for price control. That environment has been created. Exchange rate is doing well. Inflation is coming down. You understand me? We have electricity, we have water. So what's happening? So if the people in the North have been able to consider these factors and have reduced their prices, why are we those in the South not doing the same? That is a mindset that we need to work on. And sweetie, you see, there was so much debt in the system. And that is why, personally, I was against the suspension of the 1 cedi that was supposed to be used or channeled to the payment of the debt and also for investment into the energy sector. Let us deal with the comparison is shouldn't be.
We have to move on. I want to give Awal the chance to comment.
Yes, so when I hear people talk about debt at ECG, so we should be paying to clear that, those debts, I get surprised because, you see, we cannot continue to be paying for the inefficiencies of ECG because today I have seen a report by Joy News that 32% of the electricity that the ECG buys, they are not able to account for it. So the losses alone is 32%. So even if you increase the electricity by 100%, we'll still not be able to pay. Again, we kept the light on for 8 years. We had challenges of like 2 months, 3 months of doom so. But today, people are still experiencing doom so with the increment of 17%. That is the reason we're saying that don't implement this 2.45%. We are already reeling under 14.7%.
So let me ask you this. You said that you get surprised when the Ghanaian is asked to pay for the debts that ECG has accumulated over the years. And mind you, we can call these legacy debts.
Yes.
Okay. So what is your approach or what is the strategy here? Do you think we should use to clear these debts before we can begin to see some clarity?
We have to address, because when this government came, even at vetting, what Jinapo told us is that they will want to privatize ECG so that they will be able to cut down on losses. That was why we all kicked against it. But there is a report. There is a report.
Of course we know. There was a committee set up. The findings are there.
Even implementing
it. Yes. So are you saying that that's the way to go?
Now,
wow.
They are still implementing.
We are looking for solutions. So let's have a conversation. Are you saying that the best way to approach these clearing of debts in the energy sector so the Ghanaian can stop carrying the weight of it is to privatize ECG?
You see, I am not saying we should privatize ECG, but I'm saying that we must address the inefficiencies, the reasons why we have the losses. They think that privatization is the best way to go.
No.
And you remember, you even interviewed the former CEO who told you that at least they are able to cut some of the losses. So you understand? So we will have to address the inefficiencies there, because today, even if you increase it by 100%, they will still record losses. Then we'll not get stable electricity and we'll pay higher for electricity. That's my point.
Is it a case that, I'll come to you, Nanayo. Mr. Batagla, is it a case that these suggestions that Awal is giving may actually hold the key to your quest to, clear the debts we have in the energy sector? He's talking about fixing the system. I don't know whether simultaneously or one before the other.
Clearly, with all due respect, my brother, apart from just drumming home populist sentiments, right? I'm not sure what he's saying holds water.
But it does, because we saw the report from the electricity something. There was a committee set up by Jinapo to investigate how we can...
investigating and looking at multiple measures to deal with the issues. One of such is to look at partnership. That's what they are looking at. It's look at first, because it's not about entire giving out ECG to people. No, that's not. One of such is to give some portions of control, because it's like leakages are there and they are trying to. Even that's why they came with that kind of single account, where all funds should move into a single account to be monitored. Before, we're having about 84, so nobody even knows where those monies goes into.
Okay, so then I guess everyone is wondering, aside billing the Ghanaian, what is the approach here? How do we ensure that in the next 6 months that left of this year 2025, the Ghanaian does not continue to bear the brunt of the debts of the energy sector?
Of not misappropriating the funds. Pay monies where they are supposed to go to. Not the case of ESLA. Monies moved to do something different. That's not what we are experiencing here. We are coming, the government led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is bringing a complete reset, where we are making sure that people will be held responsible for actions they take. We are looking at all that. And that is why we think that once we have this situation, if you cannot be bemoaning when that taking step, sometimes development is very expensive. You all know that. You have to be able to pay for. But you do that by knowing the kind of economic situations that we have. You do that by bracketing people, making sure that some people who fall far under the poverty lines are taken care of. All that. All those measures have been looked into, and we are making sure that it doesn't hit the Ghanaians so hard. We've endured a lot.
The best option is for you to increase.
All right, so let me take the final word on this. So we have to go on. There's so many stories we have to get into.
If you look at the wastage in ECG in terms of revenue collections, that is what we all had pushed, that something should be done about it. And this, I think this debate started prior even to the elections 2024. Well, if you looked into our great transformational plan, all right, the issue that had to do with energy security and diversification, we had indicated that for government to be able to deal with the energy sector problems, the first step is for us to look at the contractual agreements that they have with the IPPs, and to also deal or privatize the revenue collection aspect. You understand? Because revenue collection actually is not the main mandate of ECG. And if that is where the wastage is, the bulk of it, the chunk is, if we actually had dealt with that problem, we would not have ESLA being used as a collateral.
But you know, we have to also say that ECG I mean, we actually seen them do something. I know that last week or last 2 weeks, there was some sort of revenue mobilization exercise going on where they were set to collect about 2 million Ghana cedis in a week. And I was saying to myself that if they can mass up such amount of money in a short time like that, then they should just escalate and go.
So you understand that the revenue is a problem.
Yeah.
You understand?
But I mean, of course, at the end of the day, it's even government institutions that owe more.
We spoke about the metering, the billing, and the collections.
And so you should only fix the problem so that you shouldn't be paying.
It doesn't take...
We cannot continue to pay for the...
We only fix for you to come and mess it up. That's the challenge we have. We fix for you to come and mess it up.
Who put blinders into them, so you're talking about this? We kept the light on for 8 years.
The chairman of that happened last year was purposely for election.
I didn't even want to go there.
The chairman of
decisions.
NDC, right, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, is saying the entire leadership of the Electoral Commission must go. They are not fit for purpose. That's according to Asiedu Nketia. And this is coming up from an interview yesterday with advancements on PM Express. I know that the Electoral Commission has been the center or the hotspot for many news stories from the lead up to election to after election. As we speak, there's one constituency in this 9th Parliament without representation, and we are still trying to see how we can figure it out. But this is what he's saying. He has, excuse my French, bastardized the entire Electoral Commission and saying that the leadership must go. Because this is coming from your house, I want you to substantiate what he's saying. What is the reasoning behind this?
The reason is obvious. I think he stated those reasons clearly. And even they thought he was going to be quite economical. They asked him, do you ask for a change? Are you asking to change? He said, yes. Not just changing one person, but until the top three.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And we all saw that. We lived in this country, just that the patience of Ghanaians brought us this stability and peace. Otherwise, what we saw through the administration, with all due respect, we are on national television. It's just like loading a gun and giving it to a child to play with. That was the kind of leadership we were looking at. And I think that we are all talking about building stronger institutions where we think that independent bodies, as enshrined in our constitution, should have the mandate to be able to look into people who are into governance and tell them that, no, we do this for Ghanaians, not just for political parties. But we didn't see that. And I think all those played out. This is time for us to reset the country. By resetting the country means that bring in people who have that gravitas to be able to stand on their own, to say that, no, I am here for Ghanaians and not because you brought me in.
Does it not merit any applause that they actually took us through the elections successfully? Of course, it had its own issues. We saw pockets of violence here and there. But at the end of the day, we sailed through. I think Ghana won election 2024, no?
I'm saying that I have no any scientific research, but I can tell you that their conduct partly annoyed Ghanaians. You could see how prepared Ghanaians were at the polling station. Their conduct annoyed Ghanaians. But the Ghanaian, and sometimes when you see the Ghanaians shouting, be like, you are a lucky person because they are telling you their sentiments. The moment they go quiet, they are prepared for you. And that is what we saw in the 2024 December elections. Okay. So I think that clearly my chairman, as we always refer to him, has said it and has hit the nail. He doesn't want to pretend over issues. We need to deal with this and nip it in the bud once and for all.
Oh, wow.
I think our democracy is under siege because the same person, the national chairman of the NDC came and said the CJ must go. And there were trump-up charges and she's now facing the expulsion from her office. Now he has said this. I have heard that there are petitions already with the president. He's waiting for them to finish this one, so that when they get an NDC Chief Justice.
And you are speculating here because
yes,
we do not know for sure.
Yes, that's when they get an NDC Chief Justice, then they can push so that they will be able to do what they are doing to talk on it today. If you ask any NDC person that tell me the reason why Tete must go, he cannot have even one charge against the other deputy. If you ask them about Bosman Asari, they will say that Bosman Asari has said that the NDC is a threat to, existential threat to our democracy. I heard him on Joy FM that day. It was Asiedu Nketia who said it, that the EC is an existential threat. Then he responded by saying, if there is any party, that is, any stakeholder that is existential threat, then it is the NDC, because they are crying wolf when there is no wolf. And they took that, even though he was not supposed to respond like that. He responded to Asiedu Nketia, and that is the only thing that they will say. When you ask him, he never said anything about they did 1, 2, 3, 4 that merit that they should be removed. But because it is orchestrated, they said, well, when we come, we'll remove her. And they think that they will have to get some trump-up charges to remove her. You see, where we are moving is dangerous for our democracy. If it was wrong yesterday, it shouldn't be right today. If you equate, I don't know the charges that they are pushing, but when you check Charlotte Osei, in 2016, we were on her neck to give us a new register. We did all these things. After we won the elections, we never started any process to remove her until they started fighting. George Nopokwa, her deputy, Amadou Sule, and herself. They started writing to the media, explaining themselves. When George Nopokwa, the deputy director administration, accused her of some procurement breaches, then she also accused Amadou Sule, the late, of taking some 5.4 million from the NDC to do illegal transfers. These were the basis for them to be removed because they did not even conduct themselves well. A prima facie case was established, and there were procurement breaches that they even understood. They didn't even challenge it. But you see, this one, you have not seen anything untoward. But because you think that you bastardized her, you said a lot of things about her, so she must be removed. You even mentioned that, well, there were pockets of violence. When there is violence in elections, you don't hold the EC accountable to that. You hold, they don't man the security on the elections day. Theirs is to conduct the elections.
Electoral Commission the security is in charge of election.
They are not in charge of the security on elections.
Task Force works closely with the Electoral Commission. So
if there is
anything, they are not blamed. In as much as it doesn't exculpate them without blame, that's what it means. It doesn't also mean that, in as much as it doesn't make them guilty if something goes wrong, it doesn't exalt them of blame either.
Exactly. But you see, tell me which polling station that recorded violence. Polling station, not collation center. Because you see, the collation center, when you check, when the NDC sent their tax to ban the Ayawaso, what's the name? Okankwe
I'm trying
Central.
to remember where I was, where the violence started. It's
at a polling station.
Yeah, no.
When elections, collation center.
Oh,
the NDC massed up and went there. They bent three collation centers. Fantiakwa North, they bent the collation center. You understand? So how do you blame EC for the burning of collation centers?
Those who followed the rhetoric of the New Patriotic Party in the lead up to election 2024 and listening to you now will say that the NPP has never seen anything wrong with the Electoral Commission.
No.
I can give you two instances. There was that attempt to remove the indelible ink, which caused public uproar. Ghanaians were livid because it was the only way to actually tell if they wanted to introduce biometric, and then there was the discrepancy between the figures that the Electoral Commission themselves were putting up. And then there were issues about these biometric, there were so, what's it called, the BVDs and the rest. There were so many instances. The issues
with the BVD where those missing.
I'm just giving you another angle to your point. There were so many instances where the Electoral Commission committed terrible mistakes, and they will come up and say they are pardonable mistakes. And the NPP never really saw anything wrong with those.
This is
and so if these have culminated into the stance of the chairman of the party saying that they must go, so and you say that they are being targeted.
He never said that they were incompetent. They were not able to really do their work.
But wait for the petition. There's a process to get them out.
So, okay, he's confirming.
No, there's a process.
There is a process.
It's a process.
You understand?
Of course, there is a process.
There's a process.
The NDC
but we all know there's a process.
Has sat in their office. They are done.
Allow to talk. No, but hold on. Talk to me. Don't mind.
I'm saying that when the chairman started with the EC, with the CJ, we saw what is happening, what is playing out. Now there is a petition. Then you said, we don't know for sure. Then the MP is telling you that the process is ongoing.
No, that's not what I said.
You just confirmed.
No.
I remove them. There is a process. So,
remember before he said, I said, Awal is trying.
So, what is the process? Tell us the process.
There is a constitutional process. There's a constitutional process. There's a way we have to go about this. And it has happened before in this country.
All right, gentlemen.
It is because they have really made up their mind to remove these people. That is the reason he is saying it, to prepare the minds of Ghanaians.
And you are saying the evidence is what's happening with the current suspended Chief Justice.
Exactly, because they are waiting for an NDC Chief Justice to come so that they can...
So you were having an NPP Chief Justice?
Yes, that is what you because you said that she being there will not serve your interest.
No,
it means whoever you are bringing in will be an NDC person.
Thank you. We got your point.
We don't need on the 6th of December, 2024, I made a post. I said EC officials in some regions should be called to order immediately. We do not want to start mentioning names. And I mentioned Volta region, Ashanti regional directors. We in the Afro-Fronto are not sublets like others. And this was a statement. I attended IPAC meetings on behalf of Movement for Change. These were statements that were made by EC officials, all right, to the fact that persons who have gone throughout Ghana to ensure that forms were signed and processed were referred to as sublets. In an official meeting, when we had even called that minutes should be taken so that we are able to speak to issues, the three refused. On the 7th December, some EC officials are determined in their hearts to frustrate the efforts of independent presidential candidates and other smaller parties. How do you tell a candidate's agent he won't get a tag and still refuse to admit him or her to work? They refused us tags. They refused us access to tags, which would give you the legal authority and access to polling stations. Why? Because in their minds, we do not have agents in all the polling stations. Are you working by the law, the EI, or you are working CI, or you are working with your own thing?
But they were almost right. Because there are polling stations you had zero.
Let's hear that.
Even Baumia had zero.
No.
Even Baumia had zero.
No. Which polling station?
Even Baumia has zero.
Which polling station?
My brother, please don't go there. You brought him because you said he was going to sweep all Zongo communities and sweep all Muslim communities and the northern region. What happened? We don't have a problem.
Whoever will think that Cheddar can beat Afro-Fronto? Alan.
But Awal, I mean,
are you done?
Nana Sapon, hold on for me at this point. Awal, if you say that the NDC has targeted the leadership of the Electoral Commission because of their own personal vendetta, or so that they can bring in someone who's a sympathizer for the party. This is someone who's not part of the NDC, and he's giving you these instances. Are you part of Movements for Change?
He came from
the NDC.
He was in opposition and was also aligned with the...
Let my question
land.
I'm saying that
boy.
He was
an NDC boy.
So I'm saying that
if you want to go that way, as much as I'm a very fine gentleman,
hold on.
No, please.
Well, these are some allegations that someone from the Movement for Change is making against the EC. And I think your point is to say that there are indeed reasons why the leadership of the EC should be removed, correct?
I made a point.
So
I said during an emergency IPAC, a comment was made simple arithmetic, you cannot do it. And this was a statement that was made by a commissioner to a political organization.
But Nana, are these
of course,
are
it
these
means
big
that
enough to warrant
big
that
enough.
the leadership,
if we have
three
gone,
people at the helm of the Electoral Commission to be removed?
You do not know the impact of some
Everyone
of these
wants to know, is this enough to remove the issue?
How would you feel when we seated here tell you, as a journalist, a broadcast journalist, that Ontebrof?
Well, I would be respected where I'm unable to be loved, so you can tell me that.
So a commissioner who's supposed to be a referee sits and makes such comments.
Okay.
A commissioner? No, how do you expect a candidate's agent to access a coalition center or a polling station when you have even refused him a tag?
Peter, I made a point. We are enjoying this
Just a second, I'll come to you in a bit, yeah.
The processes were, in our view, the processes were, I have, from the day those statements were made, at IPAC meetings, I told them to their face, I said, listen, if we would want Ghana's democracy to grow and our elections to continually to be free and fair, you do not have the moral rights to be seated where you are seated.
All right. So it looks like the Movement for Change, NDC, in support of the leadership of the EC to be removed, according to Johnson.
I started my,
So one last story.
Long before now, Awal and his people have always been in defense of the EC official. We know that. They have always, they even spoken for them more than the way they spoke for themselves. And I said that this stability that we are enjoying is because Ghanaians are naturally patient people. If we were in some other jurisdictions, this country would be plunged into abyss. We all know that.
What are their charges?
I think the patience of Ghanaians is a quality and advantage that all politicians
are taking advantage.
But they have taken a due advantage.
It's the same reason why.
It's good to take advantage, but they have taken a due advantage.
It's the same reason why we are seeing these increments and the Ghanaian is saying, okay, let's be patient.
They have taken a due advantage.
Within 1 month, 17%.
They have taken a due advantage.
That's what you are taking.
See,
so
you asked a question.
Within the 10% increment in salary.
Gentlemen, let's have a conversation.
You asked a good question that had to do with election processes and the security. Look at what's happening in Ablikuma.
Yeah.
A court has ruled that the police should provide security. Now, how does the police provide security when the Electoral Commission, that is supposed to be responsible, all right, for the election, has not triggered the process of going to either recall it or whatsoever? Yeah. The police can say, okay, IGP can get up and say, okay,
last week.
I'm giving you 100 men. Where are the 100 men going? Who is responsible for the process?
Nana Osapong, restrictions on social gatherings due to the resurgence of COVID-19 on the University of Ghana campus has become very topical. As at yesterday, I know that there's been some confirmed cases, 2 or so. In fact, I have a statement here from the University of Ghana. It says that the Office of Student Affairs would like to inform all student bodies that due to the resurgence of COVID-19 cases on University of Ghana campus, it has become necessary to suspend all social gatherings with immediate effect. And I also read a statement yesterday from the Health Directorate of the university, and they were asking that the protocols that we're following during COVID time have been reintroduced, and so we should follow those strictly. Wash your hands, distance yourself at least 1 meter apart and all that. I don't think it's a good time for us to be talking about COVID-19 again, because just when the NPP in 2020 were seeing some economic, should I use the word rebound again, making some gains, even some of these international rating agencies started rating Ghana that we're doing well. COVID hit, and the results, we are still trying to pick up the pieces from that tailspin. And so we are seeing this resurgence again, and I want us to reflect on this. And let's move away from the politics for a bit, a minute.
I felt sad in my heart yesterday and worried as a Ghanaian and also as a student myself when I read the statement by the university authorities. And I think your cameras were out there and they interviewed some few students, and you would notice that all of them, almost every single person you had interviewed was worried. We cannot go back to those days. I mean, that was where you would find a lot of people exhibiting signs of depression and loneliness. And we can go back there. I think the public health sector should take it up, and we should begin to do something about it. The disease control should be out there, and those individuals who begin to show signs of COVID or whatever, whether it is catarrh or the cold, whatever it is, they should find a way to deal with the matter. Health should be up and doing at this time. We shouldn't wait for it to escalate.
Thank you, Nanayo. I think we moved quickly from 2020. What a year. I still get a shakes when I think of 2020. What a year it was.
Did you take pictures when you were...
What?
When you were... Lockdown. Did you take
I became a content creator.
You have videos.
We all became content creators.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I remember when the COVID-19 came, towards the end of it, the health experts were saying that it is something that has come to stay. It will not just go like that. Yeah. It will still recur and so on. So it's one of the reasons why anytime in my car I have nose mask, I have sanitizers. Before COVID, I never used sanitizer before. Never in my life used sanitizer before. But now I use it almost all the time because I knew that these are things that can trigger. Again, when you go to funeral and so on, you know, in our funeral, especially in Ashanti region, you greet everyone. You shake hands with everyone and so on. So you come back, you do it and so on. So I think there must be education by the Ghana Health Service. There must be continuous education. Since we are paying for the COVID-19 tax, I think there should be a fraction of that money for education, so that at least Ghanaians will know that COVID is not gone forever. It can still recur, so that we can take precautions and so on.
All right.
A beautiful submission by my brother. Clearly, I think that in 2020, we all suffered from what we call the fear of unknown. The world was hit with a strange disease or virus that people didn't know the form and shape. Today, as we are talking, we have standard health protocols that we can all follow. So I am advising that we shouldn't suffer from the fear appeal that we suffered before. What we need to do is to be able to make sure that we instill the protocols that are there to be followed. And clearly, it has also shown, I think so far, we can see the genetic of the African. Will make up our traits, make us a bit immune to some of these issues. So once you take the simple protocols, you are okay to go. I have worked, during that time, I have worked very closely. I work with an NGO that is more based in health. So when that happened, my bosses are based in Boston, VTU Foundation. They are practical doctors. So they looked into it and they look at this and said that Africa, only 5% will go to the critical point. And that time it will become more of a respiratory issue. So if you remember, when they were sharing Veronica buckets across, I got more than 600 from our constituency, and we have to buy this cylinders, oxygen cylinders, to the rural health centers, like the CHIPS compounds, we distribute to make sure that when somebody is at that critical moment, we should be able to have oxygen to save their life. So for now, there's so much knowledge that we can leverage on to make sure that we don't create any panic again. That can be contained without it spreading to other areas of the country. Yeah.
I like that. So we know what to do. Let's not just panic, because we know what to do. All right. So let's get to your newspapers now. You can give me your headlines and then one or two stories that pique your interest. We have about 15 or so minutes and then we pop off. I'll start with you a while because I see the overseer.
Yes. Former national food buffer stock CEO reportedly picked up by IOCO. Story on page 4. And any effort to link judges killing to your trial disingenuous. There is no political agenda to remove you. Government fires back at Tokono. Vote buy-in to rock GJA elections. Voters to get between 500 and 2,000 each. Hey. Rich, smart, and young. Brane Champon to contest for MPP flag bearership. Chasma Usi as GJA president.
Okay. So where should we start from? I think Brane Champon pulled a Baumia on Baumia. And I don't know what Baumia will do now. You know, he went to the church, the church that prayed for Baumia. And I mean, how do you pull about me on Balmia? By the champion.
Okay. So I will talk about the CJ and her press conference yesterday.
Absolutely.
No, but the host will ask me to read, and she will ask me which story I'll pick. That's what.
Give you a lead.
No. If you want to talk about that, that's fine. I am not ready to talk about that. I think this is more pressing than any other thing, because the CJ. You see, when you want to remove someone, the best thing is that at least try and be fair to the person. She has raised a number of issues that the venue of where the hearing is ongoing she's not comfortable with that place. What will it take for the government to change the place? Why?
Should the government acquiesce to whatever demands the suspended Chief Justice makes in this ongoing case, trial, hearing of a sort? Should we acquiesce to everything or give in to the demands of everything?
But there are certain things that are basic. For instance, she says that same location was where her uncle was abducted and killed by the same government. Yes.
If it was an ordinary person who was standing trial for a case,
yes,
and had some past trauma about a family member who'd gone through that particular court and went to jail, and the person appeal, can the person appeal to the judge and say, because my cousin or brother went through your courtroom and ended up in jail, is giving me the panic, so I cannot be tried there? You're making the.
It's supposed to be a hearing. It's supposed to be a hearing.
She doesn't have the. She doesn't have the right.
And she says that
to determine where the hearing takes place.
It is done at the Chief Justice's conference room by convention. And she's telling you that this is the same location that my uncle was abducted when I was young and was killed. So it's traumatizing when she even passed by that house. And that is the reason she's saying that.
Why did you laugh? No, you see, these are serious matters.
No, when she drives past the place.
Yes.
Where?
You see?
It's the building by the roadside.
Oh.
I'm
saying that. She says, what will it really change if the government decides to do that, to change the place? She says, the case is against her. She says she wants every Ghanaian to see the proceedings, to see the questions that are being asked and the answers that she's given. Government says no. She says access to her phone and her lawyers were denied. But the petitioners' lawyers and the petitioners have access to their phones. So clearly you could tell that they will want to frustrate her so that she can say anything. Then they will use that to nail her.
All right.
Because if you look at even what the petitioners and the petitions and everything in it,
he has raised a number of issues. Yeah.
She has said that. She wants to see how they were able to arrive at the prima facie. GJA had come out to say, in the interest of transparency, government must publish how they were able to, the petition is already in there, how they were able to arrive at the prima facie case. You don't need to be a lawyer after reading everything to know that she has no question.
I've been told we need to speed this up, so I'll come to you now. Nana Osapong, should the Chief Justice's demand or suggestions or requests at this point be adhered to?
I'm happy she told Ghanaians the number of years she served as a lawyer, the number of years she served as a judge, so moving from the bar to the bench, and how she rose through the ranks. And so it means that she's an experienced person. She has seen it all when it comes to the judicial system and administrations in our country. And so with this weight of experience, this rich experience as a lawyer and as a judge, and having delivered a speech and having stated clearly for the understanding of Ghanaians that the law is the law, then I would ask myself a basic and fundamental question. Is Article 146 part of Ghana's 1992 Constitution? If it is, and the processes therein are indeed a law, then what is wrong here? Number one, personally, I think she did wrong by addressing the press yesterday. Article 1468 clearly states that the processes in camera, right? Then she comes out, Chief Justice, to address the press on a hearing of a committee that is still ongoing. Which is, to me, I'm not a lawyer, but at least from reading the black and white I see, there's a breach of that clause. You understand me? Number two, the building or the venue for the hearing is part of Ghana's history. We can't wipe it off. We have had people who have worked in that building. Is it not the old castle?
And I'm sorry, I have to
I think that Kobne J.
So we have to, yeah.
When he was acting or working with President Kufuor,
yeah,
worked in that building.
And that's upon.
Her uncle,
your point has been made.
Father,
okay.
You understand me? So I think that if we are talking about wanting to give her all her demands, we will not be doing.
All right, thank you. So you don't think we should have questions? Mr. Battaglia, you have the final word on this, and we have to go.
What I just have to say, as a country, and especially with this reset, all we are aiming is
with the reset
is what we are aiming to institute a country that hovers on what rule of law and not rule of men.
The law is the law.
Thankfully, she's somebody that has the gravitas to be able to battle it out using the law. All that she has stated, right from the 4 thematic points she spoke on, ranging from being historic to human rights violation, I think that she has even instituted a process in the High Court to be able to challenge that. This is the way to go. But for me, I think that it is stipulated in the Constitution as per Article 146, and all that the procedure the President have to go through. I also want to stand by the fact that there's no any personal agenda to get her out of it.
There is.
No, it is what is that we have, because it's a system that is working. She should be able to confront the system as per what the law says. Which is why she's going to court. Her lawyers are going to court. We felt that at a point she's venting her frustrations outside and she's trying to court people around. But you see, when she does that, myself and Awal are there to talk for her. But when that affects her, nobody talks for us. She went through the process. Ordinary Ghanaians go through worse process like this, which is presented over. Doesn't that happen? So I think that this is what we are trying to do. The country is on a reset agenda. We will reset it positively to make sure that Awal has his peace to do his politics and go for his primaries in general. And that's all that time will allow us for. But I just want to leave you with this. About a year ago, around this time last year, we saw that Ruto Must Go protest. And it looks like there's some disturbance again around this time in Kenya. If you missed it, the BBC's documentary, Blood Parliament, has all the details. But what's actually happening now is that at least 8 people have been killed and 400 injured as thousands took to the streets in a day of protests across Kenya against President William Ruto's government. And the police clashed with protesters in the capital and other cities, exactly, like I was saying a year ago. And looks like they're back again. They're asking for the same demands. Protests should not be destroyed, should not be to destroy the peace in Kenya. So this is still going on. Should I call it a Gen Z protest, like we used to say? I want to take quick comments. We do have to go, but I want to give you the chance to reflect on this quickly. Mr. Battaglia, let me start with you. When a year on, same violence. Yeah, same violence. I think that we can demand for our rights. We will do that, understanding that there's a process governing the conduct of everybody. So as much as we want to get things done, we should also make sure that we don't overdo it to destabilize a country. Well, like I said, countries are different and the makeup of the individuals are quite different. Like the Kenyans are much more different from the way Ghanaians will react. Sure. The way they react to issues completely different from the way we react. But I want to say that whatever they do, they can demand for their rights, but they should do that by making sure that they protect lives, they protect the economic stability, and make sure that they have a country that will save them. All right, thank you.
I think it's a problem with the broken promise, because you remember he was a very popular person. He took on his president, he was a vice president, running for the elections. He took on the president will have to go and support the opposition party. He said he is in for the youth, he's in for the downtrodden and so on. Now he came in and started increasing some taxes and so on, and that was the first one.
Financial bill.
Exactly.
That, yeah.
So I think we will have to take cue from it, that indeed when you promise the people, try as much as possible to be able to fulfill, even if you are able to really start something, they will know. But
all right,
we're not far away from here.
Aim for the moon. If you don't make it there, you land on something else. Eh? What is it that
Ghanaian electorates are matured. Ghanaian electorates are discerning. The Ghanaian people have an orientation. And I think that it is one thing that has fed into our democracy, and it is one thing that has made our democracy an envious one on this continent. And I think that leaders from other African countries ought to be able to take a cue from us and to be able to deal with matters. And you see, it goes back to what I had started with, managing expectations.
Actually, what you're seeing on your screen are live, I think they just took it off, live visuals of what's happening right now up there. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining us for News Review. I've actually enjoyed the conversation. Your energy is rubbed off me this morning.
You enjoyed our while.
Yes, those who join us, Mohammed Batagla is the legislator for Sisala East. Nanaya Ostapong is from the Movement for Change, and Awal Mohammed is from the NPP Communications Directorate.
No.
Stay with us. When we return, we get into our big stories. We'll be taking a look at everything happening in the judiciary, and today is Drug Abuse Day. So we have a lot of things coming your way. Stay with us, gentlemen.